vouchers mostly fund wealthy families. They are overwhelmingly the recipients of the vouchers.
Well, so
everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Stop going to work. Stop it. All of you, right now. Stop going. Quit your job. Just do it. Just do it.
The View's latest wild rant, Biden has officially lost it, and an anti-work TikTok gets pushback. All this and so much more is coming up on today's episode of Brad vs. Everyone, my daily series where I take on the craziest ideas from across our politics and across the internet from a center-right, independent perspective. If you're new here, please consider subscribing and sticking around. We're growing really fast, and I would love to have you be a part of this community. And if you're a returning viewer, you already know what I'm going to say. Don't forget to hit that like button and do comment with your thoughts as we go along. I do read the comments, and I pick a few to respond to in every episode. Now up first, we've got to talk about yet another viral moment from The View, the bastion of intellectual stimulation and seriousness that is the ABC News cable discourse show, featuring a panel of women such as Sunny Hostin, Whoopi Goldberg, and others discussing all the top issues of the day. It's somehow still around and still popular, but the level of discourse on there is pretty mind-numbing, and its liberal bias is pretty blatant. This was on full display during a conversation about school choice and voucher programs that's making some waves, because a debate broke out at The View over the Pennsylvania school choice program, a voucher-based initiative that even Jay-Z, of all people, is now supporting. For context, a voucher program is essentially a program where some of the education taxpayer money allocated for educating students is given to parents in the form of vouchers that they can then use to help pay for private school tuitions. They have the option to choose the school that's best for their kid, and they get some money to help them pay tuition and enable them to access a private school they couldn't otherwise afford. It gives them an alternative to whatever public school their kid is otherwise stuck in, which many people view as a positive, but some people view as an attack on public schools. Here's how that discussion went on The View, first from Melissa Farrah-Griffin, who is a center-right commentator, and then the wonderful and wise Sunny Hostin, who gave her take. Let's take a listen.
That a student's zip code, socioeconomic status, if they have learning disabilities, shouldn't restrict them to one school if it's falling behind. We want those schools to do better. That is important, but I'm not willing to risk a generation of kids falling behind while that school catches up. We need a holistic approach to fixing some of these schools that are falling behind. In Pennsylvania alone, they said less than 10% of students are proficient in math, only 25% are proficient in English. And what Governor Shapiro does is very tailored to the lowest income students in the most falling behind schools. So I think there's a way that you can still have a strong public school system. I grew up in public schools, but also give optionality to parents who I think know best for their kids.
Well, I disagree with that. I have actually the exact opposite opinion, because when you look at the stats, our public schools educate 90% of our students. 90%. So only 10% are taught by private schools. And according to the National Education Association, which is actually the largest union in the United States, the labor union, they say that this voucher system actually gives to private school institutions money that is now not accountable to taxpayers. They also say that that means public school students have this: less access to musical instruments, science equipment, modern technology, textbooks, after-school programs. There's zero statistical evidence, that voucher programs improve overall student success. In fact, the opposite is true. Research has shown that students who use voucher programs leave a public school system and attend a private school system, they do worse academically, especially in math.
So this is happening in...
The final thing that I'll say about that is vouchers mostly fund wealthy families. They are overwhelmingly the recipients of the vouchers.
Well,
So Sunny Hostin's rant here is absolutely wild and untethered from reality. It's incoherent and factually flawed on too many levels to even list in one video, but I'll do my best. First though, it's kind of funny because if you're watching her, you can see her kind of struggling to remember the talking points that were fed to her by teachers union, by the NEA, which she explicitly cites. site as one of the largest teachers unions, which opposes this for self-interested reasons, because public schools are unionized and private schools are often not unionized, so they'll lose members and money if more students and more money flows to private schools over public schools. It's not actually necessarily for them about what's best for students. They have a strong self-interest in preserving the status quo of people being trapped in public schools. Anyway, she's citing their talking points. You can really see her doing this in real time and struggling to remember them, and doesn't even seem to realize that what she's saying makes no sense in the context of the actual topic they're discussing. For example, the Pennsylvania voucher program that prompted this whole segment was explained at the beginning of it that you didn't hear is specifically only limited to low-income families. According to a local news outlet, the program is only available to students from relatively low-income families, those that make less than 250% of the federal poverty guidelines, or less than $78,000 annually for a family of 4. So to claim that this is just taxpayer money going to rich families is objectively untrue. You're just repeating talking points from a general debate applied to a specific news story you clearly know nothing about. And it's funny to me how they act like it's such a radical concept that taxpayer dollars would ever go to a private institution. Like, babe, have you never heard of food stamps? We don't force poor people to spend their food stamps at government-run grocery stores. They can go to Shaw's. They can go to Harris Teeter. They can go to Meijer. The GI Bill and Pell Grants and taxpayer funding for higher education can be used at private universities and is all the time. We don't view that as defunding public colleges. We just view it as going to the person that it's supposed to help and then letting them decide what's the best option for them. School choice is the same thing. And the idea that there's no accountability ignores the parents. The parents care most about their kid and what's best for their kid. And so they're going to hold the schools accountable that it's actually a good fit and they're doing a good job for their student, because if not, they'll switch them. That's the whole point. They have choice. They have a competition. They have options. If you want to talk about no accountability, talk about a system where there is no school choice and you're just trapped in one school, public school by default, unless you can afford to pay totally out of pocket on top of your taxes for a private school. So then only rich kids have accountability or choice. To be clear, it is true that public schools would have less funding under a voucher program if they have fewer students, but that's kind of the point. They're responsible for educating fewer students, so of course they don't need as much money. It's kind of weird to even assume that they should be entitled to the same level of funding, even though they're responsible for educating way fewer students. Like, the math isn't mathing there. And some studies actually show that these kinds of voucher programs can be good for public schools and improve public school outcomes where there's a voucher program taking place, because they're forced to step it up from the competition that the private school options and the voucher programs offer. And when she says there's no evidence and no studies showing improved outcomes from voucher programs, that's simply not true. There is mixed evidence. There are different studies of different programs in different places, some where it shows overwhelmingly positive results, some where it shows neutral or mixed or unclear results, and a few where it shows negative outcomes. But to claim that all the studies show it doesn't work is simply untrue. And regardless, studies and data are always kind of things that can be fudged, are up for interpretation, are subject to how you skew the data. And ultimately, for me, this comes down to a matter of principle. Do we want more competition? Do we want parents to have more choice and more options? Or do we want more people trapped in a status quo that isn't always working for them? I know where I come down on this debate, and it's not with Sunny Hostin. You let me know in the comments below what you think. I want to hear from you, and don't forget to hit that like button while you're down there. Up next, Joe Biden is not okay. And it became immediately obvious. Not even liberals can deny this anymore. He's not all there. He has lost it. He has absolutely lost the plot, and there's just no disputing it after the absolute show cluster that was this week's presidential debate. Here's a compilation of Biden's finest moments from that evening.
Both, however, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare, we're trying to provide housing for Black Americans. The impact on the choice, the idea that they're gonna, I'm proposing that everybody, the millionaires pay 1%, 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. And wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it stopped. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
So this compilation was put together by Trump's people, and obviously they added dramatic music and they cut it in a way to make him look as bad as possible. But these are all real moments. None of this is AI or fake or totally misleadingly edited. They're all real moments that anybody who watched that debate saw with their eyes. Biden is not okay. And we knew this, right? All of us, at least, who are honest and have looked at this, and from even a nonpartisan perspective, not Trump fans, just telling it how it is, he's not okay. He's clearly lost it. He's not with it. He's not present. He's not sharp. He's in severe mental decline. It is obvious and apparent for all to see. This left me with some serious questions. Number one, who the has been running our country these last few years? Because it's not that dude. Is it Jill Biden? Is it Kamala Harris? Who's actually been calling the shots? I feel like as the American public, we do have a right to know that. I want to help you guys understand just how much Joe Biden has declined by playing you this clip of him, the same man, just from the 2012 vice president debate. The person you're about to hear genuinely sounds like a different human being.
Let me have a chance to translate.
I'll come back in a second then, right?
First of all, I was there when Ronald Reagan tax breaks, when he gave specifics of what he was going to cut. No, number one, in terms of tax expenditures. Number two, 97% of the small businesses in America make less than $250,000. Let me tell you who some of those other small businesses are. Hedge funds that make $600-800 million a year. That's what they count as small businesses because they're pass through. Let's look at how sincere they are. Governor Romney on 60 Minutes, I guess it was about 10 days ago, was asked, Governor, you pay 14% on $20 million. Someone making $50,000 pays more than that. Do you think that's fair? He said, oh, yes, that's fair. That's fair. And they're going to talk about, you think these guys are going to go out there and cut those loopholes? The biggest loophole they take advantage of is the carried interest loophole and capital gains loophole. They exempt that. Now, there's not enough. The reason why the AEI study, the American Enterprise Institute study, the Tax Policy Center study, the reason they all say taxes are going to go up in the middle class, the only way you can find $5 trillion in loopholes is cut the mortgage deduction for middle class people, cut the health care deduction for middle class people, take away their ability to get a tax break to send their kids to college.
How can the mainstream media, which has told us time and time again, Biden is sharp as a tack in private meetings with reporters, or insiders say he hasn't lost a step, and they've told us Republicans share misleading videos to attack Biden's age. All this stuff they've told us time and time again. This is exaggerated or a nothing burger. Well, we've seen it with our own eyes. Uninterrupted. They even structured the debate in unusual ways to give him every possible benefit. For example, they added 2 commercial breaks in this 90-minute debate. There normally aren't commercial breaks in general election presidential debates. That's not something they do, but they added this probably to protect Biden, if we're being honest. CNN, why did they add that rule? And to make money, of course, but it was unusual, right? So they even made it more favorable. He got 2 breaks in there, and this is still the result? Come on, guys. There's no more doubting it. It's here for all to see. So the media has once again been caught lying to us. They really have, and just whatever last vestiges of credibility they have gone up in flames. I don't know how this will all play out. I don't know what will come of it, but guys, he's not okay. And anybody honest has to admit it after this absolute calamity of a debate. Up next, it's time for Brad versus TikTok, my segment where I take on the craziest ideas from across the clock app.
Pronoun of the day is slug slugs.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet, and hit that like button while you're at it as well. And now, let's check out a video from a communist TikToker encouraging his peers to stop going to work.
Stop going to work. Stop it. All of you, right now. Stop going. Quit your job. Just do it.
Oh?
Just do it. Just go ahead and do it. Don't be exploited for your entire life. Stop simping for your capitalist overlords who do not love you or protect you or like you. They will melt you down into biomatter and use you as jet fuel for the next flight to space if it came down to it. Stop loving capitalism. You have no capital. You're not a capitalist. You're a worker. You work for a living. What are you doing? What are you doing? Methinks the chud doth loveth the boot too much if. Remove the boot from your throat. Why are you giving your life away to these overlords? Why are you giving your life away to these parasites? There is something called a spine. Grow one. In case you didn't know, you don't have to be a worm for the rest of your life. You can have convictions. You can have morals. You can be a better person.
So, there's a lot to unpack there, but this is just terrible and unrealistic advice. It's funny because leftists talk a lot about the concept of privilege and often in cringeworthy ways, but obviously privilege is a real thing that exists. And to suggest that people just quit their jobs reeks of privilege. How are they supposed to pay their bills, take care of their family, pay for their health insurance? I mean, maybe, and I don't know anything about this guy, but maybe he is like a Nepo baby or has family money or something and just is fine and doesn't have to work and just can post mediocre TikTok videos all day or something. But most people don't have this luxury of just quitting their job. And I also don't think most people view their work this way. A lot of people are proud to work because working, it gives your life meaning and it enables you to do the most important thing of all, which is take care and provide for your family. And I don't view business owners and entrepreneurs as parasites. Actually, I view the people who don't want to work and just want to live off everyone else through government welfare as the real parasites. That's what kind of goes unspoken in this video is like, okay, well, if y'all are just not going to work because you don't feel like it, how are you going to eat? How are you going to be housed? How are you going to be taken care of? Oh, yeah, that's right. Socialism. We're all going to have to go to work to pay for you because you don't feel like working. That's the true reality of what's being said and advocated for here. And that's a hard pass from me. As far as I'm concerned, folks like this don't have to work if they don't want to, but they shouldn't be getting anything. No food stamps, no nothing. I mean, save that stuff for the truly disabled or impoverished or single mothers or people who cannot work. But if you just don't want to, there should be no safety net for you. You should be left to starve. That might sound harsh, but that's the way I feel, honestly. Somebody made a funny video pointing out this guy and all the really expensive and costly things he has all around him and asking like, how is he affording this? Take a look at this interesting video that somebody made.
Stop it. All of you, right now. Stop going. Quit your job. Just do it.
Yeah, that's pretty easy to say when you're a trust fund baby. And trust me, I've brought receipts. He's got a half dozen keyboards, pianos, and guitars around his apartment. Here he is with a $450 synthesizer. And you can't forget the multiple expensive mixers he has. Or the guitar amp which costs $200 used. And how would he be able to live without his $25 a bag coffee? Or without studio speakers which cost $200 per speaker? I mean, look at this shot here. The exposed brick wall, the MacBook Air. Oh, and by the way, that espresso machine costs $600. Like, oh my god, look at his apartment here. It just keeps going. Like, bro, you ain't fooling no one.
So I do want to be clear that we don't actually know whether he's a trust fund baby or not. But as this video does a pretty good job of pointing out, we do know that he has a lot of expensive shit and clearly lives a pretty luxurious lifestyle. So I'm guessing he has a job that pays him well, probably employed by a capitalist. Though I guess he could work for the government or something, I don't want to assume. But regardless, he's clearly not taking his own advice and just staying home. Or the only other solution is he actually is a Nepo baby and does have a trust fund or something, which would be incredibly, incredibly ironic given the way that this person talks about rich and successful people. Either way, I will just never be able to relate to the mentality of people who genuinely view hard work as a bad thing, which he clearly really does, as evidenced by a follow-up video.
Really? So an hour of your life is worth $15. Oh, I'm sorry, is it 20? Oh, you made rent this month. Congratulations. Looks like you'll be here for another month. That's awesome. Nah, that's all right. You're used to the precarious life, aren't you? Look, just keep working hard, okay? And pay your dues. Who knows? Maybe when you're 60, 70, 75, you'll be able to afford your home. Just in time for death. Everything's fine. It's just your one precious chance at life. But hey, what you're doing is good for the economy, okay? You just gotta grind harder, is all.
So I can't even keep up, because 5 minutes ago they were telling us $15, $20 was a livable wage and fighting for that to be the mandatory minimum. And now they're saying, don't even work for that. That's not worth your life or an hour of your life. Which is it, babe? And obviously some of this is meant sarcastically or tongue in cheek, but he really is just looking down and sneering at people who work hard or grind, in his derisive putting it. And I find that really contemptible. We need to return as a society to being a country that values hard work and enterprise and effort and stigmatizes wanting to live off others and sloth-like lazy behavior and entitlement. And in the meantime, maybe this guy should start practicing what he preaches. Or better yet, stop preaching on TikTok at all. All right, everybody, that's it for Brad vs. TikTok today. Let's take a look at the comments you left before we round out today's episode. One person says, dude, it's not reverse discrimination, it's discrimination. Don't let there be a difference. This is in reference to the story I covered about Disney being exposed for having an anti-white male bias in its hiring practices. And I actually wanted to say that I think you guys are right. A bunch of you made this point in the comments, and you're right. I just kind of used that phrase because I've heard it said a lot and internalized it, but it's true. It is just discrimination. So good point for you people who pointed that out. Somebody says, Brad, hi, first thing I watched this morning. I have a question. What's your favorite movie? You know, I don't think I have one. I'm not really a movie person. I'm more of a TV show person. Another person says, I love you, Brad, but I don't recommend you pursue a career singing telegrams, LOL. Yeah, I am not the most musically talented or inclined individual out there, and I am self-aware of my limitations. Another person said, I just saw you on Sky News. I was like, that's my Brad. OMG, Sky News is so freaking smart. Yeah, I've been going on there pretty frequently lately and might be doing so even more in the near future. So definitely check it out. And yeah, it's pretty cool to be on there and comment on a lot of the same stuff I talk about on this show, actually, but reach a totally different audience with all my friends down in Australia. Another person says, I've been watching this channel for the past few weeks, and Brad is scary with his big pearly smile. Well, thank you for watching, and I'll try not to scare you with my smile, I guess. Brad, speaking about thin, do you work out and take care of yourself, or are you a fast metabolism person? Yes, I definitely do. I go to the gym a couple times a week, and then I play soccer a couple times a week, or do cardio a couple times a week. So I'm pretty active, go for walks many days of the week, several miles, and then I try to eat healthy. I'm not always perfect. I have a little bit of a tendency towards binge eating or a little bit of a sweet tooth, but I would say by and large, I don't eat terribly. So yeah, I do. I mean, if I just let myself go, I would definitely gain weight. I'm not one of those people who's just inherently stick thin because of super high metabolism or anything like that. Definitely not. All right, everybody. Well, that is it for this episode of Brad vs. Everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you're subscribed if you haven't yet. And don't forget to hit that like button. Do comment with your thoughts on today's episode. I do read the comments, and I'll pick a few to respond to when we talk again next week.